In the vast, interconnected world we inhabit, events so sudden, so seismic, send ripples across continents in mere hours. Today, we find ourselves at the crossroads of such an event, a striking escalation in the long-simmering tensions between Iran and Israel. This isn't merely a military alarm, it has triggered a profound chain reaction, now gripping the global economy in a state of unprecedented unrest. Our focus today is on dissecting the mechanisms of this shockwave, understanding its origins, and charting its potential trajectories across the international system. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery under pressure. At the very heart of the Earth's energy system lies a delicate yet vital artery, the Middle East. Within this region, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway no wider than a few dozen miles, critically channels approximately a fifth of the world's daily oil supply. This strategic choke point, situated between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, is now pulsing under immense pressure due to escalating conflict. Tankers, once moving silently and predictably, now navigate a landscape of heightened hesitation, potential delays, and palpable fear. The lifeblood of modern civilization, crude oil, finds itself under an unprecedented siege, exposing a profound vulnerability in global energy security. Market volatility and the economic ripple effect. As night falls over the Persian Gulf, its shadow extends to trading floors in London, New York, and Shanghai. Traders watch in real time as numbers leap off their screens. Brent crude has surged past thresholds once thought improbable, with West Texas Intermediate not far behind. This isn't just about price hikes, it's panic spreading not in a shout, but a whisper, in the flickering screen lights, in the recalculations of fuel surcharges, and in the revised logistics of everyday goods. The immediate psychological impact on global markets has been undeniable. With missiles launched and military installations struck, the perception of risk has skyrocketed. Investors, analysts, and governments alike understand that even the possibility of further escalation is enough to trigger severe economic consequences. The crude oil price spike following these strikes serves as a stark demonstration of how geopolitical volatility directly affects global energy markets, driven often by fear and speculative trading rather than immediate physical shortages. Historical context and the dangerous turning point. Historically, tensions between Iran and Israel have simmered beneath the surface, driven by deep-rooted ideological, religious, and political rivalries. However, the recent direct strikes between the two nations represent a genuinely dangerous turning point. We've moved beyond proxy engagements and cyber confrontations into open military exchanges, intensifying fears that this conflict could spill over into a broader regional war. Such a scenario would inevitably involve multiple actors, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, various armed groups in Syria and Iraq, and potentially even global superpowers indirectly aligned with either side. What makes this escalation especially alarming is its timing and location, occurring in a region responsible for nearly a third of the world's oil production and a significant portion of its transportation routes. Any significant disruption here threatens to choke vital energy supplies to Asia, Europe, and beyond. Vulnerability of critical infrastructure and diplomatic challenges. The conflict has also raised immediate concerns over the acute vulnerability of critical infrastructure across the Middle East, including vast oil fields, refineries, pipelines, and vital ports. A single targeted strike on one of these facilities could send oil prices soaring even higher, triggering retaliatory actions that further destabilize an already volatile region. Diplomatic efforts to de-escalate have, so far, proved largely ineffective, as both nations frame their actions as defensive responses to aggression. The international community remains palpably divided, with calls for restraint largely overshadowed by the immediate urgency of protecting strategic interests. Meanwhile, media coverage, while necessary, has often magnified the crisis, fueling public anxiety and increasing political pressure in countries already grappling with pre-existing economic challenges. Global supply chain fragility and strategic responses. The global oil supply chain, one of the most intricate and vulnerable systems in the modern economy, is heavily reliant on specific geographic choke points. The Strait of Hormuz, as highlighted, is paramount. Iran, possessing significant influence over the strait, has previously hinted at using it as leverage. Even the mere prospect of a serious threat to shipping through this route instantly sends ripples across global markets, raising alarm about delayed deliveries, increased transportation risks, and skyrocketing insurance premiums for tankers. Major oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE rely heavily on Hormuz for exports, meaning disruption here would create a global shortage, impacting all sectors. In response, governments are scrambling. Strategic petroleum reserves are being eyed, alliances tested, and emergency meetings convened. Nations heavily dependent on oil, particularly in parts of Asia and the United States, have begun reviewing and, in some cases, releasing oil from their strategic reserves. These reserves, designed for precisely such crises, can temporarily ease pressure but cannot compensate for prolonged disruption. This has spurred urgent diplomatic initiatives aimed at de-escalation, ensuring maritime security, and restoring confidence in uninterrupted energy movement. Countries are also accelerating plans to diversify energy sources, investing in renewables and alternative supplies, though these measures take time to implement, leaving the current situation exposed to further instability. The fragility of the oil supply chain, starkly exposed by these tensions, serves as a harsh reminder of how deeply dependent modern economies remain on the uninterrupted flow of fossil fuels. The economic shockwaves triggered by the Iran-Israel conflict have reverberated across global financial markets, revealing the intricate and immediate connection between geopolitics and economic stability. Stock markets worldwide reacted sharply to the surge in oil prices and the profound uncertainty surrounding the escalating hostilities. Key indices in the United States, Europe, and Asia experienced sudden drops, with energy-sensitive sectors such as transportation, manufacturing, and consumer goods bearing the brunt of investor anxiety. The financial world thrives on forecasts and risk management, and when geopolitical events upend expectations, panic often follows. This conflict introduced layers of uncertainty, making market valuation difficult. Investors flocked toward safe haven assets like gold, government bonds, and the US dollar, while energy companies saw rapid valuation shifts. For oil-importing nations, the rising energy prices translated into immediate economic strain. Developing economies, already struggling with post-pandemic inflation and debt, were particularly vulnerable. Higher oil prices directly lead to increased transportation and production costs, raising prices on goods, reducing household purchasing power, and potentially leading to social unrest. Even in advanced economies, central banks reconsidered interest rate cuts to avoid triggering further inflation. This market reaction is a stark reminder that in a globally connected system, regional tensions have the power to trigger financial shocks on an international scale, regardless of their distance from the battlefield. The burden on ordinary lives, a global ripple. The ripple effects of rising oil prices are being felt most acutely in the daily lives of ordinary people around the world. As the Iran-Israel conflict intensifies, the immediate impact is seen at fuel stations, grocery stores, and on utility bills. Consumers are confronting higher costs for gasoline and diesel, which not only affects individual transportation expenses but also increases the price of transporting goods across supply chains. This leads to an overall rise in the cost of essential items, including food, clothing, and household products. For working-class families, especially in developing nations, this additional financial strain can mean cutting back on other critical needs such as healthcare, education, or housing. Farmers and manufacturers who depend on petroleum-based inputs are facing increased production costs. These costs are often passed on to consumers, contributing to inflationary pressure. The situation reveals how fragile everyday life becomes when energy prices spike, especially in a world still heavily reliant on fossil fuels. This geopolitical conflict, though occurring far from most people's homes, translates into direct, tangible hardships for millions. Conclusion: strategic global impact and future outlook. In conclusion, the recent Iran-Israel conflict has shaken the world far beyond the immediate battlefield. From the strategic choke point of the Strait of Hormuz to the wallets of everyday citizens, the consequences of this escalation have spread rapidly across the globe. Crude oil prices have surged, supply chains have been threatened, and global markets have entered a state of heightened uncertainty. Strategic reserves are being tapped, economies are straining under rising inflation, and millions are facing the burden of higher living costs. This crisis has exposed the delicate web of dependency the modern world has on energy stability and geopolitical balance. It is a stark reminder that in our interconnected world, a spark in one region can ignite tremors that are felt by all, demanding urgent, coordinated, and insightful responses. This in-depth analysis is based on comprehensive research and expert commentary, offering crucial perspectives on the ongoing situation. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this critical topic. Stay informed, stay analytical, and may clarity guide the days ahead.